What's up? This is Know Your Work TV. For you guys that are tuning in for the second, third times, I appreciate you. But if this is your first time, I also thank you and make sure that you share, that you like, and tell your friends, man. This is really a platform where we get to empower, where we get to educate. And today I got best videographer in Orlando, production company. That's just a videographer. I don't even know if he does videos anymore, man. This dude's to the top of the line. Mr. Gabriel, what's up, man? How you doing?
How's it going, man? I appreciate you having me on here today.
Absolutely, man. Like, why not? I see what you've been doing. I've been seeing the progress. Really, I think it's been we spoke early in the pandemic when it kind of first started, when we needed the face mask. That's how I was kind of introduced to you. And I just kind of been following the work. And I felt like who better to give us some insight on entrepreneurship, on the videography world, production world than yourself, man. So I appreciate you giving me that time.
Yeah, no
So
worries.
so let's start off, man. Introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are. What is it that you do? And we'll start from there.
Yeah, so I mean, in a nutshell, I'm the executive producer and CEO of NG Production Films. We're based out of Lake Mary, Florida. We also just recently built out an LED volume, which I'm sure you'll probably have questions later, but it's the same technology what you do with Mandalorian. And we actually are fortunate enough to have that in Orlando and say that we're the first one out here that does it. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, in a nutshell, run a TV video production company. We work with clients all across the world, and that's about it.
Oh, man. So what got you into the videography world? Like, did you just one day wake up and say, I want to do videos, or is just something that was instilled in you at a young age, or someone that you knew was doing it?
So believe it or not, my story is pretty interesting. I grew up with parents that had the mindset of you need to go to college, you need to become a doctor, become a lawyer, one of those type of parents. So I try to follow those footsteps. So in high school, I took anatomy class, and the very first day in anatomy class, the teacher was like, "All right, guys, you got to memorize 100 and however many bones for tomorrow's test." So I just like rose my hand. I was like, "Hey guys, I'm in the wrong class." So I ended up going to the guidance counselor, and the guidance counselor was like, "There's no other classes available beside TV production." Mind you, I had no like I wasn't in the mood to learn anything additional of like TV production or any of that. I had no interest for it, but I took it anyways because I didn't want to be in anatomy class, and then everything from there was history.
Two Productions, I had a little bit of insight into productions myself, and I think that's what really kind of, believe it or not, I was a news anchor back then, and it's funny that I'm here doing this, and you're telling me how video production or TV production got you to do this. Listen, sometimes we don't realize how our past will come into our future. So, how long have you actually been doing video productions? Whether just yourself or with your company?
So back to the story. The way that worked is I always had a dream of working at Bright House Networks, which is now Spectrum.
Okay, yep.
So that was like my ultimate dream, not to do video production, but to do like the IT tech work, installing those type of things. That was always been like my passion, but never had an interest for video production. So when I was in high school, I took video production class, and that was I think I was in ninth grade at that time. Took video production class, and then I was working for Office Max at the time. And in Office Max, a pastor comes walking through and was like, "I need DVDs for my church services." So I immediately, the entrepreneur in me, at the age of like 16, I'm just like, "Well, who's filming it?" And he's like, "Nobody actually." I'm like, "So why are you looking for DVDs? You have nobody to even facilitate it." And he's like, "Well, good question." He's like, "Do you have a card?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I whipped out an NG Production Films makeshift little card that had my cell phone number on it, and I was
Ninth
like, "Give me a
grade.
call." That was in ninth grade, and
Wow.
believe it or not, that was the foundation of the production company. Um, in high school, I was getting paid to do DVD work or services for ministry, and at that moment, I realized I was like, "Man, I think I should take this and just continue with it." So the moment I turned 18, I got my license, like a business
Yep.
license,
Business license. Yep.
and went on to college for video production. But in the interim, I just kind of worked with that pastor, and that pastor referred me to another pastor, and then to another pastor, and to another pastor. And next thing you know, I was traveling across the country at the age of 20, teaching other ministries of how to go onto TV. And we ended up becoming the largest and best known faith based company in Central Florida.
Man, so did you already know, like, it seems like you already had this entrepreneurship mindset, but was that the goal in ninth grade when you
No,
started TV productions?
no.
It just
So
kind of happened.
when I was a little kid, I was like a hustler. I always like wanted to, uh, if I had something, I'd sell it to you. That's just the way, that was just my human nature. Like my parents, they had a pizza place. I grew up in the pizza world,
Okay.
restaurant, and my parents had like Coke bottles, like the Coke and
The
Dasani
glass.
water and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And I told my dad, I think I was like 10 years old. I was like, Dad, why are you not selling bottled water? That's when bottled water started coming out and becoming popular, way back in the day.
yeah, yeah.
And my dad's like, I'm not paying, whatever it was, 50 cents a bottle for through Coca-Cola, through Dasani, so I can sell it. If people want water, they can just ask me for a cup and I'll fill it up with water and give it to them. I'm like, but now you're losing money, Dad. Mind you, I was only like 10 years old. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
losing money. You're giving them a cup that's going to cost you money. You're going to fill it up with ice that costs you electricity to produce it. And then you're giving them water that they could buy a bottle of water for $1. And he's like, I don't want to do it. I said, fine, here's $10 of my own money. Buy a case of water and I'll sell it. And whatever comes, I get the profit. And mind you, I did that. And my dad was like, sure, just go ahead and do it, whatever. So he ordered a case of water. I sold out of water quicker than the Coke did. And I was only
That's
10 years old.
funny.
So the whole
So
entrepreneur thing was like,
you were born in entrepreneurship. Your dad was already an entrepreneur, so you
yeah.
already kind of seen that. Why do you think they told you and try to lead you in the direction of a doctor or go to school and go into debt? I always think that's a funny question.
Yeah.
I mean, I see both sides. I'm the entrepreneur. I don't see how someone would spend 50, 60,000 sometimes in school and never do anything with it. So why do you
Right.
think they push that upon you?
So my parents are old school. So my dad's from the Middle East, my mom's from Greece. So they have that old school European Middle Eastern culture, which is like doctor, lawyer, or engineer. Like that's what you're going to grow up to be with. That's what to make you successful. And that was just always stuck in their head. So they always like fed it to me, like you gotta go to school to become a doctor. You gotta go to school to become a lawyer. You gotta go to school to become an engineer. Like you can't. Those are the only three industries you got to focus on. And I did neither. Um, and the day that I actually ended up getting a job at Bright House at the time, and I tried to get into the TV production department because I figured I
Yeah.
was already started, and they end up denying me. They're like, "No, we're not hiring you." I'm like, "What do you mean? I work for you guys." No, we're not hiring you. So I actually quit, went on by faith, never went back. Always owned my company at that point, grew from there, and never worked for another place. And it's been 16 years now.
So it really interested me on the whole, you become an entrepreneur, your parents told you different because I work in this, on the board of Edgewater High School, and it kind of bothers me how they give scholarships to go to school, right? They'll give you a $1,500 scholarship to go into debt, $40,000, but won't give you $1,500 to start your business. What are your thoughts on entrepreneurship versus following the dreams of someone else? Good question, right?
So, yeah, um, I think if you have a passion for what you want to do, as long as your mindset's there, I think it becomes endless. Um, that's exactly what I did. Like, I literally was like, no parents, I'm going to pursue this company. If I fall, I fall. But I have a strong feeling I'm going to succeed with it.
Yeah.
And they finally accepted it. And now they're like, where are you going to go work? You got your own business. You got your own team now. You're doing big things. And I'm like, well, didn't you tell me way back in the day, like you wanted me to go to school and do everything else? You're like, no, 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 no. I was just testing you. I'm like, no, you weren't. You wanted me to
Right,
go and,
right.
go do something that I had no interest for. And
Yeah.
I feel like if I would have went to become a doctor, I probably won't be a doctor. I'd probably waste 200 grand on med school and never probably, I'd probably just do it and be miserable with it. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen some people now and I question them all the time, like, why do you do this? And then it's like, well, my mom and my dad and so I kept it in the family and I'm thinking to myself, but
are you
you're not
happy?
happy. Yeah,
Right.
you're not happy. I hear you every time I speak to you, you're just not happy. But so you start your business, you at really at you said ninth grade, that's really when you started. It wasn't you
Yeah.
didn't have a business license, but
Legally.
you were working. Yeah, you were
Legally.
still working, man. You were hustling.
Right.
Um have you experienced some ups and downs through that? Because yeah, you started ninth grade. It seems like you just kind of shot up to, starting your production company. But was there struggles? What are the things that you've had to overcome in that process?
Oh, absolutely. I think everybody sees the cropped image of what your life is now. Oh,
Absolutely.
you're a multi-million dollar company. You're a millionaire. You're this. You're that. And it's like you can't look at today. You have to look of what I went through all the way back when I started. I'm thankful enough to be a debt-free company, which is amazing. We own everything outright. We have no loans, no debt, no nothing. We own
That's amazing.
multi-million dollars worth of equipment and everything else. But there were a lot of struggles, of course. When I first started, I was working at Bright House. I was doing my thing at Bright House, and then I slowly got more into the ministry side, and I just went on faith and quit Bright House and went on my own and did the business. But when I was doing all that, there was points in my times where I couldn't rub two nickels together. It didn't get handed to me. Um, if you heard the story of, like, even down to the equipment, my dad had an 8 millimeter crappy camera. And just to teach me, he didn't even hand me the camera. He didn't say, "Here, son, go ahead and use it." He said, "No, no, you want that? You use that camera and you want to use it for business, and you pay me two
Learn
hundred
it.
dollars for it." And I'm like, "Are
Oh,
you kidding me?"
wow.
And I'm like, "Well, I need a computer to edit." "Well, if you want a computer, then you figure out how to buy the computer and do it yourself." And that's exactly what I did. I was just on my
Was there
grind and I did it.
was there any moments in between ninth grade and now where you felt like maybe this is not for me? Maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should listen to what my parents said. Has that
Yeah.
ever crossed your mind?
Absolutely. Yeah. In the very beginning, now I don't. Now I'm like, I like where I'm at. But when I first started, yeah, there was definitely, you definitely hear voices, even from your parents. They just keep nagging at you, like, "Naaman, this is not for you. You're not, you're getting nowhere. You're getting nowhere. This is not for you. Go become a doctor. It's not too late. You're still young. Go become that doctor. Do it. It's guaranteed money. Healthcare is never going to go anywhere." And I'm like, "You're right. It's true.
Yeah,
Healthcare is not going to go nowhere. You're absolutely right." I said, "But parents, I know this company's going to go somewhere." And I
yep.
think if you have that spark in you, and I think if you have that fire in your belly, I think you can take any business as far as you want. You just have to, like, push yourself.
So three words off the top of your head right now that got you to where you're at. What would that be?
Passion, hunger. Um,
Consistency.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. No, it's really funny. When you go back to your parents and even in the process where they don't see it, it's your vision, so they're not going to see it. And a lot of people don't see your visions. I opened up a furniture and appliance store where we were selling used furniture and appliance. My mom literally walked into the store and she's like, "Oh wow, this is nice." She said, "Your brother's job is hiring. They're paying really good." And I thought to myself, like, what? Like, who says that? So I completely understand where you come from when you was like the parents sometimes don't believe in your vision, but for anyone that is watching, you have to believe in your own vision. Your vision is not everybody else's vision. So I'm
Yeah,
happy that you did mention that. But so recently you become a dad. She's 8, 9 months. Is that correct?
10 months.
10 months? Oh man,
Yeah,
time's flying. So I know,
tell me
I, I know,
about
I know we a child around the same time. I've been watching some of your pictures and how big she's getting, but people sometimes give up their dreams when they become parents.
it.
Some people blame the child. What has entrepreneurship and fatherhood brought to you? How do you balance the two? And just kind of give advice on those that may want to do something with themselves, as in school or career or passion, but feel that they can't because they don't have the time.
So, believe it or not, I never wanted kids. As sad as it sounds, I had no desire for kids, but I felt like if I were to have a kid, I want a daughter, and God has
Yeah.
blessed me with a daughter. She's just the best thing that ever changed my life. But the balance, I would say that I can't do without my wife because, man, that girl's a handful.
Amen. Listen, I
Um,
get you.
I cannot, man. I'm with her for like an hour, and I'm like, babe, good for you, because there's no way I can handle this little one. So I mean, the balance, if it's not from her, I don't know how I would do it, to be quite honest with you. I'm fortunate enough and blessed that she's able to, be a stay-at-home mother and take care of her, because I want her to grow up with her mom and not with the whole daycare system, and not
Yep.
yet, especially now with the COVID time. This, I don't know what's going around, um, but yeah, I don't know if I could balance it on my own. So single parenting is difficult. But with her, I think there's an equal balance. She takes care of the baby during the day, and at night, I kind of take over the baby, and then she kind of does her thing, and we kind of have that little balance from there. But I'm always on the grind doing something, so I feel bad.
No, man, don't. I completely understand. And they will understand. And I'm pretty sure my wife's the same way. She's hats off to her. Even after the whole her giving birth, I was like, and seeing that, experiencing that. I told you, have you ever, like, I would never tell you that I want another kid. Like, you have to want that. I can't even, fathom the pain and everything that she went through. And same thing, man. Stay-at-home mom. And it's tough. It's tough. Even when I do have the child, I praise all women that do it. Single moms, single parents.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
I'm hands. Listen to. I tell my wife, "You the queen. You the queen." I don't think I've ever said that as many times now that she's a mom. So, no, that's
Oh, I
amazing.
feel
That's
that.
amazing. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Um, so let's talk about it. You've mentioned you got into a new facility now. How many years before starting your company did you get into the new facility, and how did it all come about?
So this is our biggest leap of faith that we did recently. But it took many years before I was able to actually get into my own office, just even like say I had my own office. Um, I know back in the day when I first started, I didn't have enough income to support myself and an office at the same time, just to have the
Yeah.
image. So I end up, just working out of my bedroom, and I just had a home office, and that's how I called it. And then after, say, it probably took me like 5 years, you know, which is probably a lot longer than others would take. But it took me about, I think, 4 to 5 years before I'm trying to think now, 2005, about 3 years before I went into an actual office, and then slowly expanded from there. And then now we have two locations. We have our Lake Mary office, and then we also have our studio, which is the LED volume.
So let's kind of go back. You say home office. I think it's very important that people do know, and I love what you said is I didn't try to go into debt for image. I just worked out of my home. There's benefits to that as well that people don't know. So can you kind of go a little bit on what those benefits are, even when you are working from home? Because I think people get it twisted on like, I need to get an office, like you said, is for the image, and because they think that's just how you go about it. But what are some of the benefits that you've actually had working from home?
Probably, obviously, saving money. You don't have
Hmm.
to pay this overhead that you don't need. I would say if it's just for yourself, it's probably not worth getting an office. Like if it's just you at that moment, it's not worth renting an office. Yeah, it's great to have a cool image to say, but I don't think clients really care about that no longer. I think they're worried about quality of work. Are you, are you trustworthy? Do you have good reviews? You build your brand up that way. um, and they don't. I don't think they care anymore at this point of our generation now. Like, oh, they're in a Class A building with 25 employees in there. I don't think it really
Yeah.
matters much longer. It's just more of, do you deliver? Can you deliver on time? Or whatever you do, whatever business you're or field you're in, um, and can you do it at that point? You could be in
What
a hole in the wall closet. They don't care.
that's how people are producing music nowadays, right? I see it all the
Yeah.
time. Was there a tax break? Would you say?
Um, yeah. I mean, it's just like the same way you would have a tax break of having an office as well.
I only ask because there's entrepreneurs that want to be entrepreneurs but don't realize those type of things exist, right? And it took me a
Mhm.
while to. It actually took me to go see a millionaire. I went to his house, and literally his office was the guest house. He turned his whole guest house into an office, and I'm thinking like, wow, this is amazing. So it's nice house with Dr. Phillips. He doesn't really just goes from one end to the house to the other. And I asked
Mhm.
him why did he do that, and he's like, well, why would I pay someone else, rent to rent something out when I can just my whole house is it's a tax write off. So that's the
Mhm.
reason I asked, and that's really what I wanted to get for those that are watching and feel that you want to go somewhere else. Not only are you still going to be paying those taxes, you're also
Mhm.
going to be paying somebody else's lease, or mortgage or rent or whatever you want to call it on somebody else's building, and you can be really be doing the same quality of work from your home.
Right.
So that's really what I kind of
So
wanted
you get
those that
like
are
your
watching.
your internet gets, that's a tax write-off.
Yep.
Anything you do to facilitate your business in your home becomes a tax write-off. I don't know. I'm not like a CPA or any of that. I have accounting that does all that, but I know that if you have rent in your house, let's say you're just renting an apartment or renting a home, um, a portion of that becomes
The
your
square footage. Yeah.
right, whatever you're using for your business. A portion of that rent can go toward as a tax write-off. A lot of people can get the misinterpretation of tax write-offs. They think that
Mhm.
they're going to get that as a credit. It's just the way it balances out is like, if you owe that amount, then that becomes your write-off, so you owe less.
Yep.
So a lot of people that I've talked to that like, oh, I want to run a business, I want to do this, and I get all these tax write-offs, and I don't, and I'll make money from the government. I'm like, no, you're not. The government's not that dumb.
You're just not gonna pay as much, but you're gonna pay
Right.
something
Exactly. I
for
was like,
sure.
so instead of you paying Uncle Sam this much, you'll owe less. I was like, but the more write-offs are obviously better.
So you ninth grade, you started a company. I think you said 5, 6 years. Now have two facilities. One where you actually do a lot of your studio work. Now one where it's more of an office environment.
Mhm.
What are your next plans? What do you see yourself when you started this goal? Have you kind of accomplished everything you've wanted to, or there's still things that you're wanting to work on?
Nope, I beat myself every day. And it's weird because it's like people look at me and they're like, "You have it all," and I'm like, "No, I'm not done. This is just the
Yeah.
beginning." Shift the
What?
market.
No, listen, I get it. I'm with you, man. I think it's just entrepreneurs in general. We're just never satisfied. We'll
Yep.
accomplish some goals, and people are like, "Man, you're doing so good. You're doing this," and you're like, "No,
No.
there's more. I need more."
Yeah.
But what makes you want to go so hard? Is it for just for yourself? Is it for your family? Is it what really gives you that fire and that push to continue to just elevate even more and more?
I think it's just me personally. I know everyone has different views on
Hmm.
things. Like some people are like, "Oh, I want to do it to create a legacy. I want to do it for my family, so there's a consistent, income." And obviously, that's all that, yeah, for those reasons. But I think it's just more of just proving to myself, can I do it? It's just more of an ego thing to my own self. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have that same type of mentality where it's like, I'm going to show myself I can do it. I'm not just going
Yeah.
to talk about it. I'm actually going to do it. And I think that's what I've done for many years. I did a lot of talking, but never actually did it. And then now that's why
You're
this
all
year
action.
I spent a lot of money this year, a lot of
All
money.
action. I mean, that's
Yeah.
good, man. People coming out of the pandemic, and some businesses obviously didn't weren't able to be successful during these times. But it looks like you really put your head down and like I just mentioned, you were all action.
Yeah.
You didn't let it stop you. If anything, you just kind of revamped. I mean, the logo shows revamped, but you're still doing the same thing. You're just now executing in different ways as well, where you're able to produce more and pretty much work with more people and do different things. So that's amazing. So my question to you would be: there's going to be entrepreneurs watching. There's going to be people that may be in the production world, whether it's video, whether it's LED, lighting, whatever. What are some of the advice that you can actually provide them on taking this journey?
Um, if they're starting, I would say, or even if there's something they want to explore into, I would say know your worth. That's one.
Hey.
Um, that's for sure. Definitely know your worth. But if it's something that drives you to do something, I would do it. Don't let others knock you down, because you're going to get a lot of people that don't want to see you succeed, and they're going to start feeding you a bunch of BS just to kind of get you to think otherwise. I've had it happen until today. Oh, this is not for you. This is, you don't want to do this. It's, and they're going to give you so many curveballs, and it really gets you thinking, like, should I? Should I not do it? Listen, if it's in your stomach to do it, do it, and you'll be surprised of how far you'll succeed with it. But if you're doing it just for the money, you're I hate to say it, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it because you have a drive and you have a passion for it, you're going to take this business to the next level. And that's what you have to do. So, number one, don't let people stop you. Just go with it. Number two, be smart with your money about it. This industry, especially in the video production industry, can get very expensive very quickly. Try not to keep up with the Jones. Um, but
Yep.
that's a good way to say it, because if you try to do that, you're going to swim in debt big time. So start small. That's what I did. I started out with just a camera and a computer, and that was it. And then I went to two cameras and a computer, and then I went to lighting, and then I went to audio. And next thing you
Slowly,
know
just
it,
gradually built.
right? I didn't just jump to the top and just went and just bought the whole thing. Um,
That's actually a
I,
good thing. So if you needed lighting, what were you doing? Were you renting
so
it?
I No, so I mean, rental back in the day wasn't as accessible as it is now.
Okay.
There wasn't like, and when I was in ninth grade, I'm not old, I'm only 34, but when I say back in the day, like when I was in, 18 years old at that point, rental houses were like big rental houses. They were like VER, they were like those type of places. They're not like local rental houses now that you can go pick a lighting kit up for $50, for a
Yeah.
weekend. You have to provide $1 million insurance at VER, and you had to do all this just to get like a $400 lighting kit, and now you can get it for $50. So the way I did it is I saved up and got a cheap little lighting kit, and made it work. That's the only thing I had to do. It's If I
Yep.
look back at productions that I did back in the day, I'm not happy with them today, but
They
I
were good
did
at that
what I
time.
they were
They were
they
really
were
good at that
enough
time.
they were enough to charge the client and to make the client happy, and then I made money from it, and I just kept reinvesting back into the business. So I would say don't quit your day job right away. um, you gotta use this as like your side hustle to build up your main business, but don't quit your day job, because that's going to keep you current and not swimming in debt or any of that nature, and then start working on this and start building this up. And exactly what I did, I worked at Bright House, did my side thing, and then I started realizing the side thing was kind of taking off, and I was like, yep, I'll cut ties right now, and went with faith, and everything else is history.
So we're on Know Your Worth TV. You mentioned Know Your Worth. What was that Know Your Worth moment that allowed you to know that this is what I'll be doing for the rest of my life?
That day when I was in Office Max, that pastor came
That
through,
was it.
and he said I wanted DVDs, and I handed him my business card, and he called me the
You know what's
next
crazy
day,
is
and
how are you so prepared though? Like you just knew, like you had a business card, you had this company name.
yep. I do regret The one thing I do regret, is having the name NG Production Films. I regret it till today, but we've been successful at it, so I kept it. But that was that was the foundation. That was the name that was on printed on that business card at 16 years old, and was
Question, did
hand.
you print it out, Office Max?
Yep, right there in the
Let's
print depot
go.
section.
When you say business cards, I'm like, I mean, it was easy. I print them at work. Like,
Yep.
that's another thing that people don't realize. Go into a job that really benefits you in a way, right? So you wanting to do productions, go find you a company that you can actually work in and learn the skills. A lot of people think they got to go, and that's why I go back to people are going to spend $40,000 to go to school, but you can go get a job that may pay you, 20, $30,000 a year, but you're learning your hands-on experience, you're learning, the production parts of it. And that's the huge thing about what I've took out of. I worked for Subway for years, for 8 years at that, but I learned leadership, I learned management, I learned did go to school, to get my associates. I'm like, wow, they're teaching me what I already know. Like, there was nothing different. And I always tell people that hands-on experience is always going to be a degree. That's just my
That's
opinion. But that's
Yeah, that's
just that's
true.
just my opinion. But you
Listen,
know,
if you want to go in the college debate here, I went. Here's what happened. When I went to college, I was already running my business. I was already making a ton of money at that time. And it was funny because every time I went into class, the teacher's like, well, why are you here? I'm like, well, I'm here just so I can get this piece of paper so I can go home. That's really all it is. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I learn anything in college? No. I'm just gonna be honest with
yeah,
everybody. Like,
no,
I didn't
I
learn
get it.
nothing. I have a diploma that I could show, but that's about it. Everything you learn right now, my whole life is right through this business, right through real life. I mean, college just showed you some textbook stuff that even in this industry you don't learn. You have to do it hands on.
Dope. I totally agree. Those are definitely what I just my thoughts. And everyone is going to have their own thoughts. But I've seen too many people go to school, spend 40, $50,000 to go to college, and they're making 20, $30,000. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I've actually had a teacher. I remember when I was working at Subway and I told her how much I was getting paid. I was 19, 20 years old, making 45, $50,000 a year. When I told her that, she's like, how are you making more than me? I got a college degree. At that moment, I realized college wasn't everything.
Right.
Like at that, I no kind of, I'd even step foot into a college and I was already making that much money. And I'm pretty sure I could have stayed there for a couple of more years and probably make 100,000. But I wasn't happy, and I wanted to chase my passions, like that's what you mentioned, earlier. Just chase what you truly love, and at some point, stay consistent with it. And your time is not everybody else's time. So I think that's another thing that we got to mention is that you're just because you see somebody else doing it on social media doesn't mean that you need to be doing it. It's not your time. Continue to just have drive, consistency, patience. I think it's a huge key. Patience is a big thing in the entrepreneurship world. Um, but no, man, I think this was good. I appreciate you giving me your time. For you guys that are still watching, make sure that you guys subscribe, like. But where can we find you if we're needing some productions or if we're needing to reach out to you for any questions, quotes? Where can all this be found at?
Yeah. So you can on Instagram, it's at NG Films, and then Facebook is at NG Production Films. YouTube is youtube.com/NG Production Films. I think it's pretty good. And then website ngproductionfilms.com.
All right. Well, I definitely appreciate your time, guys. If you guys are watching, make sure that you guys are watching other videos. We got more videos just like this. We thank you for your time, NG Productions. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, make sure you guys follow him on Instagram. You guys can see a lot of the dope work. Also, the LED wall that he's talking about is also on there. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
All right, appreciate it.